I'm on the wave. If you can't match it, get on my face, yeah. Yeah, get on my way, some bitch, don't ruin my day.
Hey guys, my name is Maya. Welcome back to another video. And in case you're new here and didn't know, I am a self-taught character designer and illustrator. Usually on this channel, I just do fan art and speed paints, but today I wanted to do something a little bit different. I recently just finished creating a character guide for my favorite OC of all time, Mahashewarren, and I wanted to take this opportunity to make a video about her history, her personality, and just go into depth about the character itself. This is a character I've had for an extremely long time, and she is in multiple universes, so I usually tend to get confused because the information all clashes together. So not only did I want to give you guys some insight on who this character is because she's so important to me, but I wanted to be able to have some place to go when I needed to be able to look at this information a whole lot more narrowed down. I usually just draw out the scenes that have to do with her lore when it comes to the universes that she resides in, but that's not good to only be doing that because, like I said, I get confused and there's no place where all the information about her story is just completely laid out in an organized way. Now, I created Molly for two universes. She resides in the My Hero Academia universe and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles universe, specifically the 2012 version. And I will talk about three things in this video. First, I'll talk about when this character was made and why she was made in the first place. Then I will talk about her general history and personality information. Then I will talk about specifically the information and lore that goes into the universes that she resides in. So without further ado, let's jump right in with the earliest picture that I could possibly find of Molly. I started drawing this character in 2019, and usually I keep the very first picture that I ever drew of her on my device, but for some reason I couldn't find it. So this is the earliest picture that I could possibly find of Molly. So when I first created Molly, she was originally just going to be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles OC. At the time, I was really into the show, and I was just redrawing screen caps and inserting her into said screen caps, and not really doing much with her story, because at this time I was also a little baby and wasn't very good at character design or story building or lore building or anything like that. So I was just simply drawing this character over and over. I was also still in the process of watching the show and developing my own interpretation of these characters and how I think my character would react to those characters, as well as the situations that were happening in the show. So on top of that, as well as just not being that great at it at the time, not much of her story was being developed. By 2020, TMNT had ended, and I was automatically starting to get into My Hero Academia. I think at the time that I started drawing my character with that anime, it was really popular. I was seeing a lot of it on my feed, so I was just drawing a lot of My Hero Academia stuff. Again, same thing. I was in the process of watching the anime and developing my own interpretation of the characters, so her story was not very well thought out. However, I created this character in the first place for either one of those universes because I was seeing so many characters for both shows being made, and I really wanted to make my own interpretation of a character. I wanted to make somebody really cool and memorable. In 2021 and 2022, I was way more skilled in world building and story building and character design, and I started developing her story a lot more. And by the end of 2022, I had her story completely laid out for both universes. Not only that, but I had switched art accounts on Instagram, so I was completely starting over and was able to properly lay out her story on a different platform. However, I was still having a problem laying all the information out in an organized way. I'm not a very organized person, so, organizing a lot of information was not my strong suit. So I was confusing myself and I was not properly laying out her story. So randomly during this year, I decided that I really wanted to make sure that I nailed down a character guide for her. And once I finished making this character guide, I realized that I was still a little bit confused with how this information was being laid out. I was still confusing myself. So that's how we're here today. I'm making a video about it so I could probably lay out all the information. All right, so now we can start getting into talking about Molly's general information, history, and general personality. So Molly's general history changes slightly depending on which universe she is in. Because of this, I'm just going to go straight into her personality and a little bit about her family. So right here, you can see Molly's family tree. On the left side, we have Moxie's parents and Molly's grandparents, Candace and Finn. They are very soft-hearted, country type church-going people. And then on the right side, we have Lachelle and Joel, which is her father's parents, Troy's parents, and they are a lot more modernized and a lot more hardworking people. In both universes, the family has people who have powers in it, and Molly was blessed with powers as well as James. As for Molly's actual personality, she's a very sweet girl and she is easy to get along with. She tends to make friends easily once she gets out of her shell, because she tends to be shy when she's meeting new people or in a new environment. She's pansexual, and she technically is 20 years old currently because her birthday was on June 14th. And right here, you can see her likes and dislikes. So on the dislikes little sticky note, you see that she doesn't like loud noises. She tends to get overwhelmed very easily. So, anything being too loud or anything like that really makes her overstimmed. She also really hates school and betrayal because of some things that I'm going to be talking about in just a moment when it comes to lore stuff. And she hates people with an attitude / anger issue. So anybody in these universes that, has that thing about them, like, for example, Raphael or Bakugo, they have naturally just that angry personality about them. And Molly does not get along with them very well because of this. As for her likes, as you can see, she likes fashion. She has a very, very big wardrobe with a lot of different varieties of clothes. She doesn't really stick to one specific aesthetic, I'll say. She always goes to different ones because she's just interested in all different types of fashion. She also tends to write and journal a lot. That's one of her favorite forms of expressing herself whenever she's stressed or sad or anything like that. She's also very fond of the stars, fall, Spider-Man, pop and graffiti art, dogs, and 90s R&B. Down here, you can see what Molly usually carries in her tote bag. She tends to always carry some sort of bag around with her when she goes out. And she always makes sure that she carries water, as well as her phone and charger, a compact mirror in case she ever has to look at herself, as well as some makeup, lip balm, and all that type of stuff. And always her notebook so that she can make sure that she jots down anything that she needs to remember, or if she needs to get her feelings out real quick. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we can start getting into lore stuff for the two universes. So, as you can see, there's 3 different outfits here. I have a normal fit, the general thing that she would wear, as well as her hero costume for My Hero Academia and her ninja costume from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So first, we're going to talk about the My Hero Academia lore. So first, we have Molly's hero costume. Her favorite color is yellow, so that's the main color in her suit. And her quirk is shape-shifting. She can turn into any animal, person, or item that she wants, but she usually just tends to turn into animals and enlarging or shrinking different parts of her body. The hero name that she chose is Yokai, which is the name of the mythical Japanese folklore creature that shapeshifts to trick humans. Now, like I was saying, the story for Molly changes slightly depending on the universes. So when it comes to the My Hero Academia universe, we'll start off with Troy's story. So Troy, Molly's father, was born quirkless. And of course, as a quirkless person in that universe, you're always told that you're not going to be anything good in life and you're always bullied a lot. And that's exactly what happened to him. However, he didn't allow those words to get to him right at first. And he continued to work hard and do his absolute best to train and just get his physical prowess up so that he wouldn't have to depend on any quirk or any special power or anything like that. It got so good that he actually almost ended up getting into UA, but of course he was denied because of his lack of a quirk. He was so upset about it that he started blaming society for not accepting people who were quirkless and depending on heroes and that, type of thing so much, and he almost went towards a life of villainy. Matter of fact, he was on his way to commit his first crime when he met Molly's mother, Moxie. It was love at first sight for them. It did not take them long to hit it off. And Troy, wanting to impress Moxie, dropped the whole villain thing altogether and decided to make sure that he became a nice and good person so that Moxie would want to marry him. Eventually, they did get married and they had Molly and James. And even though Troy does not like heroes and does not like quirks, it does not like that whole thing very much, he did not ever put his kids down. He always supported his kids wholeheartedly. Even when Molly said that she wanted to become a hero, he helped her to his best of his ability. He just wanted her to know that she did not need her quirk in order to be successful and that she could easily be a hero without having to have some fancy quirk. So now this brings me to more specifics about Molly. So Molly has wanted to be a hero since she was about 8 or 9 years old, always looked up to heroes and always took it upon herself to be the hero in her everyday life, always making sure that she helped people out and did as much as possible to be a good person. There was a time when her quirk was first developing and she was in school and she came across some boys bullying her soon-to-be best friend, Minetta. She went and rescued him, and ever since then, Minetta was glued onto her like white on rice, and they were really inseparable. That was one of Molly's first crowning moments that she has never forgotten. And it was one of those things that made her want to be a hero more than ever before. Over the next couple more years, she trained as hard as she possibly could under her father, as well as under, her mentors in school. She met Denki around middle school when they were stuck working on a project together. And when Molly introduced Denki to Mineta, the three of them just became an inseparable trio. They were absolutely the best of friends. However, it didn't take long for them to end up in a situation where they had to separate from each other. Molly could not even finish middle school before she had to move unexpectedly, and she had to say goodbye to her two best friends. She moved all the way to the United States, all the way to New York actually, and stayed there for the last 2 years of her middle school and then her whole entire summer. While she was away during the summer, she applied to UA back in Japan. Even though Molly's dad had bad experiences with that school, he did not want to stand in Molly's way of becoming a hero and following her dreams. Like I was saying, even though he didn't agree with a lot of the things, he helped her wholeheartedly. So he prepared as best as they could, him and the family, to move all the way back to Japan so that she could successfully go to UA. She arrived as a transfer student, and when she came into Class 1A and came across Mineta and Denki, it was just the most tearful reunion. Of course, neither of them expected to see each other, and Mineta and Denki even got up from their seats and ran over to hug Molly while she was standing at the front of the room to try and introduce herself. Now on the screen, you should see a relationship chart that I made that represents how Molly interacts with the rest of the people in Class 1A. The red arrows are representing who she's best friends with, and of course it's Denki and Mineta. The blue arrows are just who she's friends with, who she talks to sometimes, who she's interacted with positively. The arrows are the ones who she doesn't like, but she doesn't hate. And the only person that she feels that way about is Mina, because she just feels like Mina talks too much and butts in a whole lot into people's business, so she can't get along with her that well. But she doesn't hate her, of course. She considers everybody in Class 1A like a little bit of a family because they've been through so much together. The purple ones are the people that she doesn't really talk to as much. She doesn't hate them or love them or anything bad. She just doesn't talk to them that much. And the pink arrows are the people that she's crushing on and the people that's crushing on her. So, of course, we have Ciro. Ciro has a big crush on Molly. As a matter of fact, he was so enamored by her presence when she first arrived that he didn't even bother to introduce himself. He was just too focused on looking at Molly. Tanya is another person that has a little bit of a crush on Molly. He saw her during one of the training exams and was really impressed by her strength and would just started admiring her a lot. And yes, I know what I said about Molly and Bakugo not getting along that well because of Bakugo's attitude, but eventually, yes, Molly did start crushing on Bakugo. Now, before you attack me, hear me out, okay? It basically went like this. So, of course, when they first met and for the first little bit of the anime, they were not getting along with each other at all and tended to fight and argue and bicker just all the time because Molly was not about to take Bakugo's shit and she was not about to let Bakugo bully people all the time. However, during the training camp arc when they all went down with the kitty heroes to go and train, her and Bakugo both got captured. She was struggling a lot while they were trying to take her and Bakugo away, so the villains had to beat her down to make sure Molly wouldn't move. So she was very hurt and could not move around that much once All Might came to save them. So Bakugo had to carry her around for most of the time until he went and followed along with Kuroshima's plan, and he held on to her that whole time while they were rocketing off into the sky, and then continued to hold her while they were watching All Might fight All For One on the big screen when they got back to the city. After this moment in time, they had a little bit of a moment, and Molly expressed how she was so happy that Bakugo was safe and that they had both made it out of that alive. And of course, she figured out unexpectedly that Bakugo blamed himself for All Might's retirement, and he blamed himself for getting captured by the League of Villains in the first place. So Molly tried her best to convince Bakugo that it wasn't his fault and that he couldn't have possibly known that something like that was going to happen. Of course, Bakugo didn't want to hear it, and Bakugo's in his own little world, but because of that little moment, they became really close friends, and Molly started crushing on Bakugo after seeing that he does have some feelings. Alright people, now that we've gotten the My Hero Academia lore out of the way, let's talk about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles lore. This is some of my favorite lore because I've been following this show for a very long time, and she was originally created for this show in the first place, so I have so much information to be shared about this character and this universe. So first, let's talk about Molly's weapons and powers. Molly owns an Adachi fan blade. It was given to her by Splinter around the same time that April became Akuna Weech. Molly was already practicing physical defense techniques and was already doing a little bit of ninja training on behind the scenes, so she was very good at using this said weapon. Her powers consist of her being able to evolve into 4 different animalistic forms whenever she's emotional enough, and those forms are dragon, snake, mermaid, and fox. Her physical appearance completely changes, and she takes on the powers and abilities of said animals and mythical creatures. The problem with this is that she cannot keep it for very long, especially if she's too emotional. She only can do it for about 30 minutes before she starts losing control and going back to her original form. She also has a default form that is basically like a mixture of a lizard and a lion together that she was able to turn into first before she learned how to turn into the other 4 forms. And now on to the lore. So Molly grew up in a little backwater town in New Jersey, and she had a best friend named Charlie. Of course, they were inseparable and they did everything together. They basically grew up together and knew each other in elementary school, but unfortunately, of course, Troy lost his job unexpectedly and they had to move to New York, and she had to leave Charlie behind. I will get into how Charlie felt about that, as well as who Charlie is as a character, in another video, but for now, this is about Molly. Like I said, Molly does not do well in new environments, and she was not having a good time adapting to her new surroundings and new people. But as the person that she is, she decided to suck it up and start trying to make friends in her new school and new environment. She met April and Irma in her freshman year, and they were friends and started getting along, but eventually April and Irma started acting a whole lot different towards Molly. April was a whole different person when she was in her freshman year and just was not very nice, and she just started bullying Molly randomly, and Molly did not understand why. She caught April and Irma talking about her behind her back and making her seem like that she was a weird and ugly person, and she just absolutely blew up at them. Not only did she lose 2 friends that night, but she also gained 2 new enemies. April did not hesitate to start spreading rumors about Molly and making it seem like that she was the one in the wrong the whole entire time. It got so bad that Molly could no longer go to that school and had to be homeschooled for the rest of the year and just could not go outside. She could not bring herself to even face anybody after what had happened at school. Eventually, she did go back into public school, but not before she was almost captured and sent to the Krang's dimension. She was just walking along one night trying to get home after getting some groceries when the Krang spotted her and dragged her into an alleyway and tried to bring her into a portal. At the time, Donnie was walking about, and this was also around the time that him and April weren't talking because they had gotten into an argument over that mutagen being dropped all over the city, and he just so happened to come across Molly being captured, and he saved her. Molly, being very grateful for being saved, didn't scream or yell or run or call the police. Instead, she thanked him and awkwardly went along her way. She then started school and kept as low of a profile as she possibly could. She did come across Casey a few times, but because she was so quiet and refused to really be seen by people, Casey didn't really notice her all that much, but we'll get back into that later. Eventually, a couple of weeks later, she was walking home again and came across Donnie and April arguing in the alleyway, when Donnie was basically stalking April and trying to talk to her really bad, and April just wouldn't allow it, and she yelled at him to leave her alone. Molly, seeing this from the outside situation, automatically thought that April was just being the bully that she always has been, and once April walked away, she approached Donnie and tried to make him feel better. Donnie, being in a vulnerable state, obviously spilled the beans, and they just became really close after that because Molly was kind of relating to what he was feeling. He was feeling, a lot of hopelessness, a lot of stress, and Molly just wanted to be there for him, and she wanted to thank him in some possible way for saving her life the other night. So they became really close friends and were meeting constantly, and Molly was one of the only really big sources of comfort for Donnie while he was going through what he was going through. Eventually, she did meet the other turtles, and this was during the time when Donnie and April were talking again, and Donnie had successfully created the retro mutagen to turn her father back into a human. Molly was completely a part of that chase where they were running around the city trying to get the retro mutagen back from Stockman Fly and the Footbots. Molly, of course, not having honed in on her powers yet and not being very good at defending herself, was sort of just running around like a chicken with its head cut off trying to capture the retro mutagen just like everybody else was. At the end, she probably met the rest of the turtles, and she probably met Casey Jones. This was when she first started crushing on Casey as well. Casey, recognizing Molly but not really ever seeing her without a hood over her head or something over her face, was astonished to see what she actually looked like and complimented her, calling her cute like the flirt that he is, and Molly just absolutely took that straight to the heart and started crushing on him from that moment forward. This was also another bonding experience for Donnie and Molly because once Donnie realized that Molly was crushing on Casey, Donnie wanted to propose a deal. He wanted to make sure so of course he proposed that he would help keep April away from Casey if she helped keep Casey away from April. They were basically both working together so that they could both get with their crushes. Now, I want to talk about the time that came around when the Krang first started invading, when Irma was actually turned out to be Krang Supreme after April had dragged Irma into the turtles' lair and she had revealed herself once coming across the turtles. I want to talk about this moment because this was a very important moment for Molly and for Molly and Casey's story. She watched her dad get mutated right in front of her very eyes, and this brought out her first animalistic form, the dragon. She was not able to control her anger and just completely flipped out and started tearing the robots to pieces and flying around and breathing fire. Instead of riding in the van when all the turtles and Casey and April were escaping the city, she flew on the outside of the van until they arrived at the farmhouse and she passed out in the front yard. Casey was really impressed by all this, but never really had the opportunity to tell her about it until later on at night when neither of them could sleep and they were both out in the front yard just watching the fireflies and stuff like that. Casey took it upon himself to tell her that he was really impressed by everything that she was doing and how strong that she was being, and that he wanted her to know that if she needed some help with something or if she was really going through something and needed somebody to talk to, that he was there for her. Casey never lets his feelings out like that, so Molly was really surprised and also really moved by said experience and definitely took advantage of that. Donnie and Molly also got closer because of that one episode where Donnie and Bigfoot were, a weird thing going on. Of course, that whole thing was basically about Donnie not being able to get with April, and he was really, really sad about it. And then some weird monster came and really liked him, but of course he did not like that monster back. Molly was seeing how much April's lack of compassion towards Donnie was really affecting him, and pulled him aside one night when everybody was asleep and wanted to tell him that she really cared about him and that she did not want Donnie to continue to allow himself to get hurt by April, because April was not allowing herself to become available for Donnie. And obviously, like Donnie was saying, they are both two different species. It is extremely unlikely. She was just sick of seeing one of her best friends continuously getting hurt by somebody that she absolutely despises with all of her soul. So she just really tried to tell Donnie to not worry about it. But of course, Donnie, being who he is, did not promise that he would stop chasing April or give up, but that he was going to lay off and just allow himself to focus on the people that actually did care about him and show him love. Not to say that April didn't care about Donnie at all, but April was definitely doing a lot of questionable things. And now we're moving on to when they went back to the city. After a couple of months of resting, training, and getting ready to go back, they all returned, and this is when Molly was reunited with her best friend Charlie for the first time. She came across Charlie while they were out looking for Karai, and when she turned the corner, she saw that Charlie was being held up in the air and attacked by one of those really strong Krang robots. Of course, she went and saved his life, and that's when they both realized that they had just come across each other again. She dragged Charlie back all the way to the Turtles' secret hideout, and of course they were all suspicious because the last time that they allowed somebody random into their secret hideout, they got invaded. But of course Molly's excuse was that she has known him since they were little and that she had no reason not to trust him, and they had no reason not to trust him either. Charlie was really harmless. He had hardened up a lot since Molly had moved away, but that doesn't mean he was capable of hurting or killing anybody right then and there. Of course, Charlie and Molly were back to being best friends. It was like Molly had never even left. They were very, very close, and Charlie, worried about Molly's safety because, of course, they're standing in a room full of giant mutants, kept her close to him the whole entire time. So now we are moving on to how Molly interacts with the rest of the characters in the show. So, of course, we have the red ones that represent who she's best friends with, and Casey definitely sees Molly as a best friend. Molly is crushing on him, but they are both really, really good friends and tell each other everything, basically. She's also best friends with Mikey because everybody loves Mikey, and Molly really feeling bad about Mikey basically getting abused constantly by Raph and people just seeing him as a dunce. She really just has a motherly relationship with Mikey and tends to take care of him. Also, she's obviously best friends with Donnie. They've been best friends since day one. And finally, she's best friends with Bishop, which is a very interesting relationship that I definitely want to talk about. So basically, her and Bishop became best friends because she got into an argument with Raphael while the city was invaded and they were still hiding out in that pizza shop, and she ran out into the street to get some air. But obviously you can't just run out into a street while there are aliens walking around, and she didn't think about that at the time, so she was just out walking, and then she realized her mistake and tried to go back, but ran into Bishop. Bishop was doing some undercover work and came across her, and instead of attacking her or doing anything wrong, he pretended that he was bringing her in, but actually escorted her somewhere safe so she could get back to where she came from. She was extremely thankful for this and promised that she would come back and see him and keep in contact with him as much as possible. When the Turtles met Bishop for the first time, they were very surprised to know that Molly already knew him, because as you guys know, none of the Turtles or Casey or April even trusted Bishop because of course he looks just like a Krang. But Molly ran right to him and hugged him when they met in the back of that little meat locker, and everybody was just wondering what the heck was going on, and that's when they explained how they met in the first place. When Bishop and Molly are around each other, they definitely are just yammering onto each other a lot, and they are just absolutely inseparable people. This is the most emotion that Bishop ever shows, is when he's around Molly. Now, of course, we have the blue arrows, which represents who Molly is friends with. Of course, she's friends with Renette, Fugitoid, Mona, and Leo, and she's friends with Splinter, but she more so sees him as a mentor. The orange ones are the ones that Molly has an relationship with and who other people have an relationship with her. So, of course, she has a sort of iffy relationship with Alopex, with Baxter Stockman, and with Raphael because, like I was saying, she doesn't get along very well with people who have an attitude like Raphael does. So they have come to blows a lot. But, of course, she still very much cares about Raphael and doesn't wish any bad on him. She has an relationship with Stockman because Stockman and Alopex because, of course, you know, it's the same type of thing where she recognizes that they are good people and they do good things, and she recognizes why they have done some of the things that they have done. But, of course, whenever she tries to convince them not to be rude and evil, they don't listen. So there's not much that she can do about that. Now, you see the purple arrows are the ones that she hates. And she hates Shinigami and Karai. Of course, she doesn't think that Karai is actually a nice person. She doesn't have that much trust in Karai. Even after Karai became a good person and was on the side of the turtles, she was still doing stupid things and even sent Shinigami after them to attack them, and then claimed that it wasn't that big of a deal when they came and confronted her about it. So Molly just thinks Karai makes a lot of stupid decisions and doesn't trust her that much, and of course she doesn't trust Shinigami, not even in the slightest. We already know why Molly hates April and Irma. Irma always had an iffy relationship with Molly, but April and Molly always hated each other. Now, her and Slash's relationship is actually really interesting, and I like talking about it too. Basically, we all know what happened with Slash. He used to be Spike, but then he got hit with that mutagen, and he turned into some big weirdo, and then he started doing dangerous things. He really hurt the turtles and basically almost put them in a hospital. And he hurt Molly too, because right before Slash went and started hurting the turtles, he had lured Molly to the roof and had attacked her too because Raph had complained about her as well. Anybody that Raph was complaining about, Slash was just going after them. So Molly, every time she sees Slash, just has a lot of animosity with Slash and is ready to fight him at any given moment. Slash, being a good guy now, just has an iffy relationship with her because he knows that there's animosity between them and there's nothing that he can do about it. So it's just an on his part. And then we have the pink arrows. We have the ones that are crushing. So, of course, Molly's crushing on Casey. But we also have Charlie crushing on Molly. Charlie always crushed on Molly. Ever since they were little, Charlie always had the biggest, fattest crush on Molly, which is why it broke him so much when she moved away. And when he finally saw her again after not seeing her for years, it was an even bigger feeling of love. He just could not believe how much prettier Molly had gotten and how much stronger and smarter and just way more impressive that she had gotten, and he just crushed on her a whole lot more. Now, of course, Charlie sees that Molly has a crush on Casey and hasn't noticed that Charlie has a crush on her yet. So, of course, every time they interact, it's just a big side eye from Charlie. Well, guys, we have made it to the end of this video. After 30 long minutes of me yammering on about this character, we have finally made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching. This video took a very long time for me to make, edit, and just do in general, as well as making the character sheets that you have been seeing all on the screen. It has taken me a very long time to do this, so I would appreciate if you guys interacted with this video, liked it, shared it with your friends, all of that good stuff. But I really do appreciate you guys for listening, and if you made it to the end of this video, thank you so very much. I will make another video about Charlie. I do want to get into depth about his character because I love his character so much, and he has been around just as long as Molly has been around, so I would love to yammer on about him as well. So stay tuned for a character guide video about Charlie next. But that is all I have for you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Now, when it comes to Slash, Slash is very interesting. Molly hates Slash for a very specific reason. Of course, you know, when Spike became Slash and Slash started doing terrible things, of course, Molly was completely against all that. And she was just wondering why Slash even did it in the first place. Of course, he had just attacked Raphael's brothers without even asking. Like, it was a whole thing where Slash thought that that's what Raph wanted, and that Raph just wanted his brothers completely out of the way. But he didn't even bother asking. He just, you know, took it upon himself to just make that decision, and which was another big reason why Molly doesn't like him. She also, you know, attacked her and attacked, you know, the people that she really liked. She attacked her friends. So, of course, every time that she sees Slash, even though Slash is technically a good guy now, Molly does not like him. They do not get along. They don't really talk to each other. So, you know, Slash is just towards Molly, and Molly just does not like Slash, not even a little bit. And with the orange arrows, the ones that Molly's just like, too, you know, she knows that they're good people and that they can do good things, but they're just not doing good things. Like with Baxter, you know, he's really smart and he, you know, can do good things, but he just doesn't. And same thing with how, you know, Baxter feels towards her. Like, Molly was really trying to be nice to him and convince him not to do evil things, but of course he wasn't really listening. Same thing with Alopex, you know, they're both iffy towards each other because Molly completely understands why Alopex was doing what she was doing, but of course, you know, right idea, wrong execution type shit. And then Raph, of course, they don't get along with each other very well because Molly does not get along with people who have the type of personality that Raph has. And Raph does not get along with people that try to tell him what to do and how to be. So, of course, they're just not, you know, getting along very well. Also, of course, I want to talk real quick about the pink ones. Of course, there's only a couple of crushes here. And we're talking about, you know, Casey and Molly and Charlie and Molly. And, of course, Charlie is crushing on Molly a lot, and Molly is crushing on Casey a lot. So it's a big old weird love triangle thing going on, and Charlie is basically fighting with Casey in his own mind every time that Molly sees them both interacting, because Casey sees Molly as a very, very close friend. But you know, it's a completely different thing, and even Charlie can sense that more than Casey can. So it's just a very bombastic side eye from Charlie when it comes to, you know, them interacting. Well, guys, that's it. We made it to the end of Molly's character explanation. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. This video took a very long time to make, as well as the pictures that you have been seeing on screen. Those took a couple of days to put together. So I really do appreciate you guys for watching.